Hi. Um, Today I want to address something. Let's be clear about this, okay? Uh, this subject was brought to my attention by an American, a woman that I consider my friend, that I have not spoken physically lately, but that I'm still in touch with her. And sometimes we call, sometimes we video chat, whatever we talk. I'm, I don't talk just with her, talk with other people, but this is something that we talked about, and I think that she is right. There is this ingrained complex of inferiority in the Americans towards the Europeans, and in a certain extent also to the Chinese and the Japanese and the let's call to the more evolved cultures or more old cultures. There seems to be this savage wish of inferiorizing European culture. So, a minute, please. So, the Americans, for example, they see something in Europe, and their idea is that to make that good, you have to massify it. No, like for example, what Olive Garden does to Italian cuisine, or what Americans do to pizza. You know, they have this idea of massifying it, and then they say this is better. But behind that, there is this extreme inferiority, this feeling that is a bit stupid because there is no problem in being different. There is no problem in appreciating, for example, European cuisine, wines and products, food, food preparation. There is nothing wrong in appreciating that and doing it and repeating it and copying it. There is absolutely nothing wrong about that. Same goes with technologies, with all of that. The Greeks of the past, in the before the Roman times, they were experts in doing that, and the Portuguese also did it. That is why our cuisine is so varied because we took things like, for example, tempura, castella cakes. We took that to Japan and we brought back things from them too. And we did the same thing in India, in China, whatever, in Africa, wherever we went. We found something. It was good. It was practical, and then we adopted it. Okay, but we did not lie it and say this was our invention. We are the best. No, the British did that. And when I say British, I better say English because, as my Scottish friends have often told me, a Scot is not an Englishman, and they are right. I know it too. So let's call them the English because the French they seldom did it. The Dutch, they seldom did it. They had no issues in saying where they had gotten that idea or whatever. The Italians, they have no problems in saying that it was the Portuguese that expanded the use of rice in their countries. Just as we have absolutely no problems in saying that the espresso machines and all of that that became a part of our culture for more than a century right now, it was the Italians that brought it here. No issues at all. Just as we have no issues at all that a lot of our cuisine and the spices that we use come from India and Africa. Because it's a part of our culture now. We used it. We use it. We You go to any traditional Portuguese suite and even from medieval times. Already we had that influence. Okay, we use a lot of, for example, cinnamon, pepper. You know, a lot and there are things that we plant here. We plant varieties of radishes that came from radishes we brought from Japan, for example. There's absolutely no issues about that. But you Americans, you seem to have an inferiority complex of being unable to accept that you are copying or using an idea from someone else, and you always have to, and when you admit it, you always say, we are doing it better. Well, let me shock you. Your pizza is crap. This is an example. I learned how to make pizzas with a Neapolitan pizzaiolo, okay, when I was young. I learned how to make pizzas. My dad wanted me to learn, and I learned. And I can make pizzas in the traditional thin crust Italian from Napoli and Sicily. Sorry, you know, I make that pizza, and you make some crap filled with cheese, and you say it's better. It's not better, and I'm not saying it's bad or if it's good. To my taste, it's bad. I don't like it, but I'm not saying it's bad for other people. There are a lot of things that I don't like to eat, you know, but that other people like to eat. So what? But it's always the same thing, you know. You 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 imitate a type of beer from Europe, and you say our beer is much better. You know, it's always this ingrained complex of inferiority, and I hear that in your current president, and especially in his vice president, Mr. Vance. Because, in my opinion, Mr. Vance is not entirely an evil person. I think that is very subjective. I think we must analyze the psyche of that person. Like saying, why are we going to bomb the Houthis if it is only damaging the Europeans? It's not damaging us. They should take care of it, and blah 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 blah. Okay. First thing is first. No, it is not just damaging the Europeans. But what this speech made, for example, was to speed up the rebuilding of the new Silk Road directly from Europe to China via rail that in less than 40 days will bring and take goods from China and Europe and every country along the way. And it's bypassing completely Russia. Russia is completely isolated from that trade route. This type of speeches only accelerated these consequences. It accelerated, for example, and if this was something that came behind when the entire Trumpanation began. It accelerated Europe making an effective agreement with the Central Asian countries. It accelerated Europe making agreements with North Africa. It accelerated Europe making agreements with Turkey. It accelerated a whole lot of deals. Deals that the US could have supported and benefit from indirectly, but it would benefit from. Because if Europe was richer, okay, you could do more business. And this is something your inferiority complex does not does not make you understand this perspective. Okay, I know I'm talking a bit about psychology. I know I'm not a shrink. I'm just a guy sitting here. I'm using my dark glasses because the lights are hurting my eyes a bit, and I have some issues. Okay, so excuse me. I'm not trying to be cool or whatever, but this inferiority complex does not, because every country have it. Okay, Portugal has its issues culturally. Spain has its issues. France has its issues. The UK has its issues. It's a common thing, but it's the way that you act on those complexes that makes you so spectacularly dumb. Even your cities, they are like, I don't know how quite to put this without being offensive. Do you know that game Backrooms? That comes from the Twilight Zone and all of that. Yeah, yes, yes, kids in the audience. The Backrooms and the empty rooms come in part from the Twilight Zone, and also in part from things like brutalism, architecture, and other stuff. Okay, it's a a long amalgamation of influences. But when I look at American cities, all I can think about is being in some kind of backrooms. Your cities are like hellholes. And of course, there are nice places. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there are nice villages where you can live, or us, even nice towns with historical areas and all of that. But there is this feeling of artificial sense of things. They are dead. Here, even the new cities, they have a life. You can look at the cities and say these cities were made, sorry, excuse me, were made to be inhabited by people. You know, sidewalks, okay, things for how you call it. You understand? You know what I mean? Crosswalks. You know, places for people to cross. You, uh, services are not at miles away from where people live. If you go outside the town to the outskirts, the services will accompany people. So the grocery store, the supermarket, the pharmacy, the police, it will accompany people. For example, here the smallest village might not have a guard post or a health center, but there is one in the immediate area that you can access, that you can walk to, that you can bike to. I don't know. You understand? Because we also have something that you don't have. It's a public transit system, which is also very important. And to me, this attitude of MAGA and of Trump and of Mr. Vance and all of these people, even to a sense of Elon Musk, this attitude, it goes back to that inferiority feeling that I believe people have. And it's completely unjustified. It's no, it's there is nothing wrong in having only you in having a town that's 50 years old and you say it's very old. Well, to you it is old, but to us, my friend, I was born in a house from the early 1920s that stood in the place where older houses used to exist. Okay, in a in the in a square, you know, where an ancient Neolithical before after that, but before all of that, it was a Neolithical burial place. You know, you dig up under the houses, and you will find the remains of people and of artifacts, and they have often done that. And there are even areas that you can visit. You know, under the old church, they found absolutely amazing ancient things. You know, a very, very, very old place that was being inhabited by people during the last ice age. Okay, does that make me better than you? That I was born there? That, for example, I can claim my ancestry back to lines of people in the times of the immediate centuries after the Roman Empire with the Visigoths, and after that back to old East Prussia and also here in Portugal, and of course, does that make me better than you? No. It might make me more interesting, perhaps. Who knows? But interesting to people that like history. But it won't make me any different from any person in the USA. You are all equally important. We are all of us humans. We are equally important. We do not need, and you Americans, let me just drink a sip of water. Sorry. You Americans, you do not need to claim to have done something much better, much bigger. You know, like that everything is bigger in Texas. You don't need it. Just do things right. You don't need to claim to be better than other countries by imposing tariffs that are biting you back in the ass and making you poorer, angering people. You don't need to claim to attack your allies, to annex Canada, to annex Greenland and Panama and whatever. You don't need to do that. That is infantile. You could get a rare earth exploration agreement directly with Greenland. You could. You could negotiate with your friends in Canada, but you cannot negotiate bullying. And right now, and I maybe will make a stream about it. You have negotiated a rare earth agreement with Ukraine. How that will come out, what the practical effects of it will be, I am not very keen on giving my opinion because I might jinx it because I don't think anything will come out of it. But whatever. But uh, summarizing what I'm trying to say is this: the entire attitude of the Americans, even that attitude of speaking louder than your neighbor, of being noisy, of being obnoxious, it's like that a kid trying to get your attention, trying to get the attentions of the adults. You know, you think that, oh, I'm going to say that we invented pizza to piss off the Italians, and that way I will feel better with myself. You know, or I will say bagels were invented in New York and not in Germany. You know, you don't need that. You need to grow up. Your politicians need to grow up. You need to stop this entire bullshit. You need to stop having children uh, praying in school. You need to stop having children uh, making the salute to the flag or the Pledge of Allegiance. Fuck that bullshit you do every morning. You don't need that to be loyal to your flag. I am loyal to my flag and I don't need that crap. You know, here, for example, when you go to court, you don't you don't make you don't swear on a religious text. You swear on yourself. You know, the judge asks you if you promise by your honor to speak the truth and not lie, and you have to, assuming the consequences of your words, you have to say yes, I swear, upon my honor, because a citizen has rights and the citizen has duties. I'm sorry to speak in this way, and I have spoken about my religious ideas before, but you do not need to swear upon a God. You need to swear upon yourselves. And no, this is not Satanism or whatever you want to call it. This is responsibility. Jesus said, for example, for you religious people, Jesus said his kingdom was not of this world. Do you know what he meant with this? He meant that he was speaking about spirituality, about making yourself a better person to yourself, to others. He was not trying to make his religion into some kind of badge for some secular power to use to control you. That was never the goal. Do you remember what Jesus did to the people selling in the temple? Okay. Do you remember what his last words were when he was up on the cross? Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And some people interpret this as he being almighty and saying that, oh, here I am, the Son of God, and you are crucifying me. My dad will get you. This is the way classical Christians of this type that I'm talking about, those zealots of the book, interpreted. What he was really meant, what he was really saying, in my opinion, what Jesus was saying, he was saying, these people are ignorant. They are murdering me, Father, because they do not understand the consequences of their actions. They do not understand that killing someone is bad, is evil. And then, if you believe in this, and then he resurrected 3 days later to prove that that spirituality, that sense of goodness that he spoke of really existed. But you don't interpret this as that. You blindly follow a book that was written centuries ago in an entirely different world, in an entire different society, where people needed stories to understand and to learn the practical effects of something you were trying to teach them. No? No. But let's not get into religion, or else we'll be stuck here the entire afternoon. So, what I'm trying to tell you is this: Americans need to stop acting like kids and start acting like grown-ups. Start treating other countries with respect. And you need to force your politicians to do that by answering them back. For example, this entire woke and anti-woke uh, Sprache, sorry, went back to German. Ich bin halber Deutsch, okay. But this entire saying of not really listening to people and stop thinking that everything that happens in this world is about you. You know, like I mentioned this in a comment today, I think, but in a video. But like African American people that sometimes insist with Africans of other nationalities that everyone outside of the United States is also an African American. Yes, I heard that, and it's painful. So black Americans, they are the same as white Americans. Dumb, sorry, and loud also. You know, and you have to stop claiming things as yours. Why do you insist, for example, in this question of pizza, when we all know that historically pizza already existed in Italy? And not just in Italy. Around here in Portugal, also, piece of bread in the oven with olive oil, garlic, smeared with garlic, olive oil, some herbs, and some meat if you had any or vegetables or whatever. You put it in the oven and you eat it. That is a form of pizza too, and it's centuries old here. I learned how to do it with my dad. You know how my dad did it? Slice of good bread, peasant bread, good slice of that. When my dad, of course this was a bakery, so we always had leftover bread that we then either sold or gave or turned into other products like the crumbs to sell for restaurants. But my dad, in wintertime, and during wintertime, usually at we worked every day, and from Saturday to Sunday, usually it was just me and my dad, and perhaps my uncle and my grandfather, and occasionally one of my brothers. But it was usually just us, and it was enough. But we would do whatever we had to do, which was we produced breads for clients that demanded fresh bread every day, like for example restaurants and camping parks and or whatever. And then my dad we would go into the place where we make the cakes. It was in the same. It was not in the same physical space as the bakery, but it was in the same building. Okay, and we went, and my dad first thing some hot cocoa, water boiling, chocolate with the chocolate cocoa powder, you know, some sugar, and then boil it. When it boils like coffee, you put the sugar in, you put some milk, there you go, hot cocoa. And then he would grab some bread, slice it in not very thin slices, but in slices. Then those slices, you smeared it with garlic. Okay. Then you put some olive oil over it, not much, but some olive oil, and then some herbs, and then you put it in the oven. This is how I liked it, and this is how he did. But for him, he liked it in another way, which was exactly the same way, but he would put some brown sugar on it. And there you go. And when it came out, it was like a pizza, you know? It was a form of pizza. And all over the Mediterranean, you have variations of that. You have flatbread cooked with something on it, or dough cooked with something on it. So why would you say we invented pizza? No, you didn't invent pizza. You created your version of pizza. But in that version of pizza you create, it's just Italian pizza. Because the Italians, in Napoli, what they had that pepperoni, for example, it was basically a poor man's meal. It was the bread, the pizza bread in that form, in the oven. Then they would put whatever they had on it, cheese with a lot of tomato because tomato was also always more abundant. With tomato, some cheese that was cheap, some pepperoni, and then they would get the pizza. Many times they would fold it and take it on the move because they had to eat something quick and go back to work. And you say, we invented pizza. Shut the hell up. You didn't invent anything. You can say we developed this recipe into this. And this is our version of pizza. That is absolutely correct. But you cannot say we invented this. And you cannot downsize the influence of other people in other cultures. Because it's that inferiority complex that has led you to where you are now, where you have children running your country, and not only children, but obnoxious, call whatever, irritating, infantile, impolite brats. Brats. And you think that speaking louder or threatening with a gun would will earn you any respect? How did that end up with Caligula? Remember Caligula? You don't know who he was? He was a Roman emperor that got the fever and went mad. And he used to say, let them hate me as long as they fear me. Oh yes, and they really hated him. Until one day when he did one too many, he was on his way to the circus to see a gladiatorial performance, and he got stabbed by the head of his security on the tunnel in on this way, just like Caesar got stabbed when he went to try and claim his royalness or whatever you want to call it. It never ends well. Even the ancients said that willing obedience always is superior to forced obedience, and you had a lot of that. You had a lot of forced obedience, and now you are trying to impose it, and no one is listening. Europe will Europe will say, okay, okay, okay. Oh, all right, right, right. Yeah. What tariffs? Oh, you are putting tariffs on us? Oh, sorry, we put tariffs on you too. It's the law. Okay, 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 Mr. Trump. Okay, okay, Mr. Vance. Right, right. And in the background, all of us in Europe, in China, in South America, in Burkina Faso, whatever you want, in South Africa, in that penguin island, the McDonald's Islands, your president also censored, we will all be doing the same thing. Well, not the penguins, poor souls, but we will all be doing the same thing, taking care of our own business. And remember this, we are not the ones that hate you. You are annoying, but Europe does not hate you. You are making a lot of us hating you. But if we are acting this way, imagine what the people that truly want to burn your country, imagine what they are doing. And you have a head of security sharing information over signal. Brats. Anyway, I think this is a valid idea that you should discuss. I'm not an American, it's not my place to discuss it. But why not talk about it with other Americans? Why not try to have a change of heart? Why not try to change this? No, it's not that that difficult, really. I do it often with myself. When I act like a jerk, or when things are not going my way, let's call it this way, I just sit down and try to analyze my behavior and my actions and see where I went wrong. And it's natural to be wrong. If you go into, for example, Buddhist or Zen teachings, or Stoic teachings also, all of those teachings will tell you that your reaction is normal. You know, if someone calls you, "Hey, you jerk," it's normal to feel offended. But then the way you act upon it, it's your responsibility, your decision, your action. And you, for example, "Hey, you are a jerk." And usually I either won't answer or I'll say something. "Oh, your name is Jerk. Hello, my name is Ron. How are you doing? Everything all right?" I mock. I either are indifferent to it. I don't care. I don't even listen. Or I mock the person, because sarcasm is a very strong weapon. And the Chito Bandido, like all shows will say, he knows it. So I don't know, man. Just stay safe. If you are in the US, stay safer and try to withstand the storm. You know, don't go violent. Don't go violent. It accomplishes nothing. But all of you, of all colors, black, white, yellow, red, polka dot, polka dot pink, whatever. All of you just have to stand together, and just say no to the brat. If the brat says, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that," or you don't like me, then you treat him like you would treat a brat, a spoiled kid. Go to the courts and say, "No." What he is doing now, right now, for example, in trying to justify deport with the aliens, foreign aliens or whatever, angels, act for times of war, and try using that to justify the deportation of American citizens to El Salvador, get the Constitution and throw it at his face. No, bad boy, don't pee in the carpet. Bad boy, bad dog. You know, it's worthless to go out in the streets and plunder and burn and destroy and scream and hurt people. No, you just treat him the way he is acting, like an infantile idiot. And if you don't like to listen to what I'm saying, calling your government a bunch of infantile idiots, well, they should have not acted this that way. This is free speech. Giving my opinion. If any of those persons would find me in the street and ask me, I would tell, look, you are acting like an infantile idiot. Stop it. Act like a man. They're always claiming to be so manly. Neither of None of those people deserve to be called man. They're kids, spoiled brats. Stop. At least you, American, at least you, normal people, learn how to act like decent people. Stop listening to bullshit, crap ideas, to people that bring no solutions to an issue. Have any of your issues, of your problems that you believed you have or that you had, I'm not denying that, are any of them solved? or are they 10 times worse? Your shops are getting emptier. The ships bringing in the goods, they are decreasing. And you are focused on seeing what comes from China. You are not seeing what is not coming from China and what is not coming from Europe, what is not coming from other countries across the world, what is not, you are not even focused on what is not coming from Canada or Mexico. I think you are in for a rough awakening, sorry, but I don't think it would be either sorry. I don't think it would be either quick or immediate. It will be a slow decline, so slow that by the end you will just get used to it. And that to me will be the saddest consequence of it all. It will be very sad, just sad. As I told you before, I don't believe in Schadenfreude. I think it's not correct to mark other people's disgrace. But anyone that is right now telling you you are acting like an idiot and an infantile fool is your friend, because only your friends are telling you the truth. Remember Napoleon? You know, when you see your enemy making a mistake, don't interrupt him. This is what China is doing. China will be the number one winner of all of this. But every country in the world will win something of this. But Europe would be very comfortable in not having to win something out of this. But you have set the wheels in motion. But let's not talk about that right now, or we are going to stay the entire day here talking about this. And my streams are getting a bit too long, and I need to start focusing my perhaps my videos and streams on a single subject, so that I don't drift off so much. But anyway, at least I hope this has been useful for you, that you can get something out of this. Fact check any facts I spoke about here, please. But don't fact check me on social media and dumb people talking about what a man should be and all of that crap. Because if someone has to tell you how a man should be, it's because he does not know how a man acts. Don't buy into that shit. Now, thank you for listening to me. Sorry, and goodbye.